We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Anna Settles with us. She's a licensed psychologist. See on the screen, it says the aftermath of mass shootings. Wanted to do this in some degree, especially recently, because we've seen some folks taking their own lives up to a year after surviving through one of these. And the last caller is right about this too, as well, at least with regard to, we see more of this happening these days. It's more stress than ever before, I think, on kids, especially in school.
Yes.
You were saying kids these days get how much recess?
12 minutes. Yeah.
12 minutes of recess throughout the day now. So why would recess have been important? I mean, I remember recess, I think I had like 2 recesses and they were half hour each back when I was in grade school years ago.
Yeah.
But why is recess important?
I mean, like you were talking about, just the socialization piece, just expending energy. I mean, taking the pressure off of all of the other academics throughout the day. It's crucial. So you can blow off steam. Go out and play dodgeball or something like that. But so is it that more pressures on kids these days than ever before? Yes, yes, and they're exposed to so much so early, you know, because of the media, because of social media.
And what about the role? That's, to me, above all else, I think it is such a wonderful thing on so many levels, but social media can be devastating as well.
Yep.
If for nothing else, if you just spend time on social media looking and reading what people are doing. People are always posting whatever they think the best stuff is going on in their life, and maybe the stuff that they post is a bunch of hooey anyway, it's not even true. But you read that and all of a sudden you're like, wow, that guy's got a great life, I don't.
That's right.
Or whatever. And you know it's a bunch of crap, most of it, and who cares what someone else is doing? Worry about what you're doing, but it depresses kids. It depresses adults too.
That's right, and they're comparing, if they're experiencing depression, they're comparing their despair to somebody else's highlight reel, and it's apples to oranges.
Right, and in the old days you didn't have that, and these highlight reels, like I said, I mean, so what do? Limit the exposure to this, and that's a tough thing. These days, you know, I have a son, and you give him a choice: his car or his iPhone. He's taking his iPhone. I can't imagine that. I mean, a car was everything to me. Kids these days would rather have their iPhone.
Right.
So how do you
There's an addiction there, for sure.
How do you know if someone's addicted? Just because they're on it all the time?
Yeah, I think we're all addicted.
I was about to say, I think I am. I think, but I mean, I guess monitoring what they look at, you hear more and more parents doing that. Right,
and parents are so concerned because they don't know where to draw the line. They say, you know, I don't want my child on social media. However, if I don't allow them to do that, then they're sort of ostracized from the social group. So it's a fine line. I mean, it's a delicate balance. You have to figure out how much do you allow them to be exposed to at the same time. You know, when do you pull back and say this is not healthy? Right. All right. And have you watched any video games lately? Some of the latest ones that are out there. Just I have the popular ones. The ones my son plays. You know, Call of Duty and all these. Brutal. Right. Yep. Again, we were talking about desensitizing. Oh yeah, when you see it, and it's funny. They got around it because, you know, we didn't want my son playing a lot of these where you're shooting and killing people. But what it is you're killing these robots that look like people, and that's different. Right. Right. But you're still going. Do you think? Is it fair to say? Because I remember years ago when they were looking at, you know, the lyrics in songs, and then trying to censor them, which, you know, is not a good idea. Any form of censorship, but they would blame some of what was being done on the song. Can you blame the violence on a video game? We do know from research that it does increase. There is more of a proclivity towards violence for people who are playing violent games. Because, again, because like you said, they're desensitized, or they're playing this, but you're saying that, you know, like my son doesn't know the difference between a video game and shooting up a robot and killing someone in real life? Yeah, so certainly he knows the difference, but if you're looking at somebody who's already predisposed towards violence and who's already, you know, got some of those symptoms or maybe even psychosis, and then they are also playing video games, it's compounding those symptoms that are already there. So not every child that plays a video game is going to be violent, but those who are predisposed to it, perhaps that could be prevented if they weren't exposed to some of these. So would you put limits? I mean, I know a lot of parents that do this. They try to put it off. It's almost though like the genie's out of the bottle. You put it off, and then once they finally get their hold on it, it's hard to control. It is, and they're socializing through the games. They're connecting with their friends, and so it's difficult to pull them out of that scenario. Right. Now that's the one thing that's interesting with some of these games. Now, if a child just sits there playing by himself constantly, and that's all he does by himself in the game, I would have more concern. These days, though, they'll either have a bunch of kids come over and play the same game. It's kind of like they're having a social event there. It's that much different than when I used to have kids come over and watch a movie. Well, they're all coming over and playing a video game. Yes. I don't have as much a problem with that. They're playing Mario Kart or something like that. Right. Or nowadays, they can also link up, you know, over the TVs. They'll be playing in their house, another kid in his living room, and all of that. Right. What do you think? I mean,
that's still being social, right?
Well, yes, and I think you also have to be connected to your child. You know, you have to understand if there are other things going on. So I think a lot of times it's easy to say, oh, go play video games. It's sort of a babysitter, and the parents can do what they need to do. You have to be involved. You have to be monitoring. You have to be asking questions. You have to be looking for any other signs that there might be something going on.
Okay. Well, as we kind of just wrap stuff up, I mean, we touched bases on just the mass shootings, and sadly, we know there's going to be more of them. The bottom line is for parents, even now, if you're living in the Nashville area, you know, where you have kids that see this on TV, is what? Just monitor them and talk to them about it?
Yes.
They may come to you, but if they don't, but you know they're aware of this and they see what happened in another high school, just bring it up with them?
The conversation is so important, yes.
And you start it by what? If they haven't brought it up to you and you come home and the news story was just on, what do you say?
Yeah, I would be very direct and say, how do you feel about that? You know, what have you seen? What have you heard at school? How do you feel about that? Have you ever had similar thoughts to that?
And if they're just saying, well, I don't know, I don't really think about it.
Keep pressing.
Keep pressing.
Yes.
That doesn't, it may truly be the case that they're not really concerned with it, right?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, and if you ask, and there are no other signs there, you know, I don't think you need to press if the child seems like they're doing well.
Okay,
you know?
but the sign would be some type of radical change from the child's personality the way it was before. So if they were more outgoing, all of a sudden you always hear they're withdrawn and quiet.
That's right.
What about change of what the clothing they wear, the music they listen to, their sleeping habits, their diet?
All of that, yes. And you said the signs weren't already there. I mean, some children do start showing signs from an early age, and so those signs may have been there all along. So you're going to want to be monitoring them and keeping them in treatment if it's somebody who is certainly showing signs of bipolar disorder or depression.
Meaning if you kind of know that, those early on.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, but there's other cases where they may have no warning signs leading up to it, and so you have to ask and probe for it.
That's right, and I would say maybe we miss the warning signs, but most often there's something there.
Dr. Settle, thank you for coming on. It's always worth talking about, and let's remind folks too, there is always help for people out there. The suicide hotlines and all of that, seek it out. People care, but when you're in despair, sometimes it's hard to remember that, but people do. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah,
we'll do this again. Take a break. We have to take a break early because we have a special guest coming on to talk about what they're dragging me into this weekend. Sue Ford White, where is she? Gosh darn her. All right, we'll be right back with more. Thanks again.
Yeah, sure.